Katie Dickson is a senior horticulturist of Moore Farms Botanical Garden, which is in Lake City. And you are not so much on the farm property itself, but downtown. And what are your responsibilities?
That's right, Amanda. So I get to work in the urban sphere and try to design and beautify the green spaces of Lake City and have them be a bit unique. We don't want the plant selections to be run-of-the-mill.
So not just Indian hawthorn, lower petalum.
Exactly right. And today I brought with me a couple of very unusual specimens to kind of reflect that.
And these are all going to be plants that we consider xeric plants, or for xeric landscaping. So let's tell people what that means.
Exactly right. So xeric is just kind of a catch-all term that means drought tolerant and low maintenance, and they don't utilize a lot of supplemental irrigation. So for me, that's awesome because I can pretty much manage an urban landscape with little costly water.
And most of these, I believe, also can tolerate a good bit of sun.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. A lot of these do thrive in full sun, which we have plenty of. There's a lot of hot parking islands and baking areas like that.
So so plants that are native to those hot, dry areas make a nice, smooth transition to some of our urban areas.
That's right.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the features that they have that make them that make it possible to do that. And I think some of them are that they have thick leaves that can hold the water.
Exactly right. So a lot of xeric plants tend to have kind of either succulent, sort of fleshy leaves that don't release or transpire a lot of water.
And serve as storage.
Exactly. It's a storage organ as well. And some xeric shrubs and trees also tend to have like a leathery leaf. So.
And well, then let's talk with the leathery leaf down here with this little shrub you have.
Yes, so this is one of my favorites. This little guy is an acacia. It will become a small tree eventually. This one is only 2 to 3 years old. But I just wanted to kind of point out this beautiful kind of glaucous gray-green foliage it has.
And that is a color that we often see represented in this category of plants.
Yes, you'll see a lot of kind of ghostly gray.
And then we think of often of these plants as just for the foliage, but there's one down there that's blooming quite lovely.
Absolutely right. So this is a cherry coke dickia, and I brought it with me today because it has these fabulous little spikes of tubular, kind of bright cherry flowers. And a lot of xeric plants will flower at some point in time with their ideal conditions. They'll send up a flower.
And of course, they also serve as food for pollinators, just like plants here do.
That's
we forget
right.
there are plenty of insects in the desert areas.
That's right. And I also learned recently that bats tend to be drawn to cacti species in particular. So, if you plant some of these things, you're providing for a lot of pollinators.
Yeah, and we can all use bats because they eat mosquitoes.
There you go.
And then when we talked about that kind of bluish gray color, there's an extreme example of it.
Yes, so this is also a dickia, believe it or not. It's side by side with its purple cousin, same species. They're both dickias, but this is just a different selection, and it has almost like a powdery white
And
filament.
I think one of the fun things when we start looking at this is that we often rely on flower color to get variety, but with these plants we can use the leaf color to have great variety.
Absolutely. As you can see, there's a dozen different shades of blue and green, and we even have a reddish aloe over here to your left, Amanda, just showing that, there's still a lot of beauty and versatility just in the form.
Without flower. Well, let's go back to this lovely container because that's one of the things that that looks familiar to a lot of people. It reminds them of hens and chicks. And so tell us how easy it is to keep something like that going.
So this is excellent if you want low maintenance kind of wow factor containers, especially in the summer. If you're entertaining on your porch, you can throw a couple of these together on a Saturday and put them on your porch. And basically I just took several of these itty bitty plants from friends. Friends have given me little cuttings over the years, and I just kind of group them together, and I water them very sparingly, maybe once a week. I'll just spray a little bit of water over it with my watering can. And what's pretty cool is viewers wouldn't know, but basically this pot is only halfway full of media.
Oh, okay.
And what I like to do, and you were telling me as well that you do this, where you can fill up the bottom of a large ponderous container with some lightweight material to kind of eat up some of that space.
People used to use plastic peanuts, but that was so messy when you went to change the containers.
Exactly.
So sometimes I've saved little small plastic bottles that water and things came in with the top on them and used that. And also that makes it whole container lighter if I need to move it around.
Much safer for our backs to,
Yes,
you know, move them around throughout the season.
And then I wouldn't think of grass as being able to grow under those conditions, but that certainly looks pretty.
Yeah, so this is commonly referred to as Mexican hair grass, and if you feel it, it really does feel like hair. It's a little eerie.
Or maybe like yours.
Yeah, well, I just think it's neat to show today that, you know, like we were saying, it includes, you know, Xeric plants include grasses and shrubs and not just necessarily little cacti.
And that includes such a new texture that we don't have.
Exactly.
But then here we've got a little ground cover.
And then this is a fabulous ground cover, you know, continuing on, here's a totally different plant type. This is Dickson, and it stays fairly low like this, you know, maybe 6 inches maximum, and it puts off these beautiful little delicate purple flowers. And I've planted this in Lake City on a very dry strip of parking bed, and it's been years now.
Very successful. Oh, comes
yep,
back.
Flowers
and back
over and over. Yep, so a very perennial and
there are many of these that will overwinter in South Carolina. Some of them won't, but if they won't, you've got a display here of how you can have a small space and keep some of them going over the winter. So let's talk about how you created these.
Exactly right. So these leaf cuttings, what we call a leaf cutting, were actually pulled from this container we just talked about. So all I do is just snap off a leaf of a plant that I want to preserve.
With,
That's right. And then I just had these little inexpensive plastic containers prepared with some special well-draining mix, drains really fast. And all I had to do was just kind of lay it down on the soil surface.
No hormone, no.
I don't even mess with rooting hormone, and you don't even need to stick it, you know, face down. You literally just lay it on top.
And then 2 or 3 months later, show us how it has sent up a brand new plant, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so this is super exciting. You come and check on your babies, you know, water it, you know, every couple weeks, and then within 2 months' time, it should look something like this. It'll produce.
And let's put this down so they can really see it.
So
and you can see that here is the original leaf that you just lay on top of the soil, and it has created a whole new plant. And so I imagine you will make a little cut there and then plant that in a new container this summer.
Exactly right.
That is very easy.
And it's pretty amazing. I mean, in 8 weeks' time, this is a pretty substantial amount of roots.
Yes, it is.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come down here and then come back to separating. Okay. This is a very unusual looking fellow.
Yes, and so that really caught my eye at the Boyce Thompson Arboretum in Arizona. They have all of this beautiful euphorbia growing up against their administrative building.
Euphorbia being in the related to poinsettia.
Exactly right, but you know, this is such an alien looking plant, and again, it just shows you what diversity can be within the same family.
Look at this, the stem is the main photosynthetic source on this, a green stem, because often the way they live and adapt to those harsh environments is reducing the leaf size.
That's right.
Since that's where a source of transpiration comes from.
Exactly right.
And then up here we've got another one of those little easy to do pots. Here's a different one, slightly different, and this one is showing us once again that they do flower.
That's right. It's putting up its flower stalk.
Now I was very careful reaching over here because this one is a little bit daunting.
Yes, so that is quite a dastardly Xeric plant right there. And what I would suggest if someone was handling a plant that was extra spiny, if they're going to plant it in a pedestrian setting or around kids, you can go ahead and snip off the very, very ends of the spine. You don't want to damage, you know, the leaf too far down, but just exactly right.
Tiny, tiny, tiny snip.
And I do that.
Oh, that makes a huge difference.
It does, and it doesn't, you know, really imperil the plant too bad, and it still makes the plant beautiful. But I do that downtown when I know.
And this one, it's interesting because I'm certain this happens in the natural environment. Animals can find shelter in here, and we look in here and we have a little tree frog.
Yes, we
who
do.
made the trip with us, and he will go home happily safe because nobody's going to get there and mess with him. Now this looks like a sculpture from Easter Island. What an odd plant.
That one is really neat, very slow growing, as you can see. I mean, it looks like a rock, but it's a totem pole cactus.
Perfect. Isn't that super? Okay.
Yep.
And then and this one has a good bit of color variation in the leaf.
Yes, so this is stunning. So this is a mangave. It's an intergeneric cross between and mangave. a manfreda rather, and an agave.
agave.
And so when you cross them, you get a whole new word, and that sort of looks like a beautiful freckled
Yes, it does.
foliage surface.
It forgot its sunscreen, didn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But I think it's
And
beautiful.
who's this crazy fella?
So we call that bishop's cap.
Oh, it does look like a bishop's
Yeah,
cap,
kind of
yeah.
like an old-fashioned Roman cap.
And then just to show the variations that come, this one has a
that's-
completely different pattern.
That's right, and that's a Haworthia, and Haworthias can be dark purple as well. So again, a lot of choices there.
Now, some of these grow slowly, but eventually they will make offshoots. And so let's talk about this one and how we would separate it.
So yes, there we have kind of a precocious agave, and basically what's happened here is it's made 2 offshoots over time. This guy's been in the pot for a few years now, and so as you and I were talking about, they're great to give away as gifts if you have, you know, horticulture friends, and you can.
And I found this new tool that I like, Katie, because it has such a low profile. It makes it easy for me to get in between things.
Exactly.
So I'm actually just going to go in here, and since we know that these are not like Daphne or something that's just going to swoon if you even show a cutting knife to it.
Exactly right.
These are tough plants, and so I'm just going to go through, and we've got a fairly good root system going. But as you said, it tends to concentrate towards the top of the container. And so I've got, so here's a plant that I think would transplant very, very well.
There you go.
And I'm going to go ahead there, and it's not surprising that they are somewhat tough, because after all, the conditions in which they live are tough, and probably some of that is also to keep animals from eating them, don't you think?
That's right. They have to be extremely rugged. That's for sure. So now all of a sudden we have 3 plants to
So
work
now
with.
we have 3 plants,
Yeah.
and some soil left over, medium. And let's end by talking about the medium that you would select.
Definitely. So to make it easy on the home gardener, a lot of big box stores and garden centers and your local garden center should carry some sort of cactus potting media, and essentially it's just very well draining. It doesn't hold water, and that's the ideal.
Well, I think all of us have busy lives, and it's certainly fun to think that we could designate a part of our yard or part of our container collection to something that we didn't have to go over and tend to every time we walked outside.
That's
because
right.
we know South Carolina summers are challenging. Thank you, Katie Dickson, for coming. And
Absolutely.
if people want to know more about the things that are happening with Moore Farms Botanical Garden, is there a place they can go to get that information?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful website. It's morefarmsbg.org, and we hope folks check out our social calendar and come join us for a class or
Well,
an
thank
event.
you for joining us, and we look forward to making visits down your way soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.